You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mixed with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and... she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat based on average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
And good evening and welcome to the holiday edition on KLRN. This is Disasters in the Making. I am Brad Slager. Welcome to a Halloween holiday extravaganza going on all night long. We got a multiple amount of shows tonight that are dedicated, including this one. Tonight's Disasters in the Making is a special edition. Instead of covering the prime movie in theaters and a bomb classic to go with it, we are going to supply you with a number of titles, Halloween-themed movies that are of very dubious quality. I'm going to just come out and say it. They suck. But they're very enjoyable. They're fun. If you're getting ready to go trick-or-treating, pop them in the TV. These are all going to be available for streaming. I think all of them are on Prime. Or if you're just getting back from trick-or-treating and want to extend your night, go for it. They're available for you, so stay tuned. We got some recommendations. My name is Brad Slager. I'm an entertainment writer at a number of sites. And normally joining me on this show is my partner, Paul Young, but he has some family business tonight. Apparently that's more important than some trivial podcast. So for the holiday edition, I reached out to a good friend of mine, an expert in entertainment, and also somebody with an appreciation for this level of cinema. Her name is Kathy Marlowe. You might know her on Twitter as Darth Mommy. So, Kathy, how are we doing this evening?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited for tonight. I'm excited to have you on, actually.
Me too. I'm stoked about this.
This is going to be a fun time. Kathy's also a fellow Floridian. She's on the left coast of the state, but she's also got kind of a left brain type of mind as well at times when it comes to entertainment. Kathy, actually, you are my comic book expert, actually. I turn to you sometimes when I've writing some pieces up that are comic book movie related, and I have to get some details on backstory. You're kind of my go-to expert.
Yeah, you do come to me, which is interesting. Because I don't feel like I know that much, but then you ask me a question and I'll know the answer. So I guess I do.
Yeah. that's always the best part of having a source that they know what they're talking about. And now there's been times I've gone to you and it's like, no, I'm writing about this film. How was this in the books? And you'll, in a drop, say, oh, that was from a 4-book arc in the 1990s and you would get the details like in a drop of a hat. So usually I get two kinds of reactions in that case. It's like, wow, I'm glad I came to her. And 2, I am flaming stupid about this stuff. But I think that's a mark.
About everything. I mean, your brain can only hold so much data.
I think a good writer, or at least a reputable one, is willing to admit when they're lacking in some of the information and to have people to turn to. But yeah, you're actually quite versed in that. You said you were on a Marvel podcast, were you not?
No, I would like to be. I did do one. I did one with Alan and Amy. It was their podcast, and it was something I can't remember. It might have been after Civil War that we were talking about it, because they hinted something in that particular movie that is in the comics where Vision and Wanda get together, and she actually imagines children and they run around and everything, but only when she's there. So people are like, where are your kids? And she's like, what are you talking about? They're right here. So that was something interesting from the comics that I hope comes out in WandaVision in the show that's coming up on Disney Plus.
There you go. You just proved me correct. There's the encyclopedic background right there. Yeah, I think the one I remember, I think I was doing a piece on Black Panther a couple of weeks before it came out, and I had a question about, one of the main plot points in that film was they had sourced vibranium
you were asking me about that.
Didn't that have something to do with Captain America's shield? And yeah, you just nailed it. So gave me some significant backstory there for my piece that I was writing. And as always, was deeply appreciative. So it definitely worked out. But getting into tonight, what Kathy and I got in mind here, you kind of went above and beyond, I got to say here, Kat. So I was impressed. I threw a whole list of questionable quality Halloween films and said, you pick a handful, go 1 or 2 if you want. Didn't want to overwhelm you. And all of a sudden Monday, I think you came back and said you had them all nailed already and you already saw them. So I was like, wow.
Except for the one that dropped off at Prime, which I'm okay with not watching because I think there might have been a clown, and I have a thing about clowns. So. Oh,
and here I am subjecting you to clowns is part of the myth.
Well, okay. The one that we're going to talk about first, actually, there's a clown, but he's really terrible.
Well, and that's going to be a theme throughout the night. So get used to
yes. I mean, but he's like a terrible. He's not even a good clown. I think when my son walked in and he was looking at the movie, he's like, "Mom, this is like a grade D House of 1,000 Corpses," and I was like, that's about right.
Yeah. Let's just dive into it then. What we're talking about here is one that is called Haunted Maze. And generally the film is centered on a clown figure. It's pretty much an individual that's part of a traveling carnival. He's got the full regalia on as well as significant clown makeup. Very reminiscent of House of 1,000 Corpses, actually. So I think they were trying to tap into a little bit of that Rob Zombie vein. The thrust of the movie, though, is basically I don't know how they do this because they travel around as a carnival, but I guess they obtain a barn or a building of some sort and they set up a house of horrors in there. And apparently bad things happen. But yeah, your son said House of 1,000 Corpses. This is really more like Barn of Half a Dozen.
Yes.
And I think that kind of downgrade is seen throughout this film. It starts out, I don't know what, I guess 1920s, 1930s. There's a schoolhouse. There's a very proper looking teacher, bespectacled. He's giving a lesson. He's talking about somebody's birthday is on Halloween. And then just arbitrarily, he is going on a murderous tear and chopping up students, apparently.
Yes, and the only one that survived. Yes, that's right. But I don't think it did look that old. Like the time period didn't make sense considering when the movie when the now takes place. Like I don't know
it's
when
definitely
they
a contemporary film, but I mean, I'm judging it by the clothing the kids wore. I mean, we had girls, school age girls, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, something like that, but they're wearing bonnets. The boys had,
they were like
some bowler hats or
suspenders and
berets and stuff.
whatever. It just was really odd because Clancy is there in the schoolhouse. He was one of the survivors, but whenever you fast forward to today, he's still like our age. Mm-hmm. Which that doesn't. I don't remember wearing like a pinafore and a bonnet to school.
Maybe could have been Amish country. Let's just go with that. I'll make some excuses here for the production since they didn't go out of their way. We'll have to fill in the blanks for them. And then they do an odd edit. Suddenly we see the clown outside of this barn area and the cops come and take him in. They're doing questioning, and then the whole movie flashes back and forth between an interrogation and then the actual events of Halloween, where a bunch of teens are in a carnival. And you have a great movie when the padding is very apparent. Like, for instance, there was a scene on the merry-go-round where all the kids are there. All the teenagers love merry-go-rounds, as we know. But as they're cycling through, one of them keeps seeing this clown and freaks out. We're like, great, okay, I understand. That's a little creepy. Mm-hmm. And then we spend about 4 or 5 more minutes on the merry-go-round.
And she just keeps every time the clown, oh my God, did you see the clown? Oh my God, did you see the clown? And it's like, by now they should have.
Yeah, we saw him for sure. So I think we can move on from here, but we don't. And then eventually we get to the House of Horrors, as it were, the Barn of Horrors.
Did you catch the line where they said they had to hurry up before 9:00 and get their tickets because the price was going to go up?
Yes.
Which was ridiculous. It was like, what? Usually after 9:00, the price goes down because people are leaving.
True. Place is thinning out at that point. Yeah. But also, too, they were in the interrogation room and they were going through the footage and they said, okay, now we got him here at 9:00. Now we got him at 9:30 entering. Now we got him at 10:30. And so they spent, 2 hours in line and inside this barn? I mean...
It wasn't that big.
Yeah. It's not like this thing was acres wide. I mean, you're pretty much walking through maybe a gymnasium-sized place, if not smaller.
And there was this slide, and there was, they still had the farm equipment in there. There was a tractor. It was very
this
strange.
Was an OSHA nightmare.
Yes, for reals.
They're towards the end of this thing, and they actually do have to cross their arms and go down a slide and land in a dark room. Yeah, that's not going to bring out the lawyers at all. And this is one of my favorite lines when the cops they walked out of the interrogation room to have a word with each other. And they said, did you notice it? He was pleasantly agitated.
Oh my God, I noted that too. They kept saying that, which is, it was like, was somebody stuck on that? What's going on there?
I'm still just trying to wrap my head around. Is that like being comfortably bothered? Like there's really no way to reconcile those two. He was agitated, but in a pleasant fashion. Okay.
Yes.
And eventually we do get around to some killings, and for a good minute and a half, that are actually kind of grisly, but the payoff was really kind of weak at this stage. And spoiler alert, at the end of it all, he ends up walking out of the police station.
Yes. And at the very, very end, the girl that was afraid of clowns, he kidnaps her.
Yeah. Yeah. The closing shot is her chained in a cage with not much explanation as to where, how, or why. But that was it. It's just kind of it's kind of a their movie. You're saying, okay, I should be getting scared now. I should see some tension. There should be something going on here. And really wasn't. By the time they actually got to the killing aspect of it, you're really kind of tired and say, just can we move from here? But
so you know that I'm not a fan of horror, right? I'm actually scared to death of them typically. But and I had a feeling that I would be okay in these, and I really was. There's only one movie that I even had a moments where, oh, this might not be good. But you're right. By the end of the movie, I'm like, all of these people need to die. The villain, they all need to die. I'm ready for them to go. It can be bloody. It can be
Yeah,
boring.
I mean, these were teens and all that, but we never really met any of them. They were just a group of teens, and that's all they ever were throughout the movie. And we really didn't get much more than the introductory backstory to the clown, no motivation or anything else. So I found myself, I was rooting for killing, not so much because I detested anybody, but just for the sake of something to happen. You know, it's like, you kind of promised me something here. Are we going to get something? And then it finally did arrive, and you're like, okay, but there was really nothing to it. I didn't feel bad for them. I wasn't rooting for them. It was just like, okay, we just got random teens. Let's kill them. And they do. And then he walks away scot-free. Okay, there's our film. So if you're into clowns, that would be a lesser effort. Believe it or not, though, we actually had one that was even lesser than this. And I got to tell you, absolutely love the ineptitude of this movie. I cannot recommend this one enough because you're going to be amazed that anybody thought this was a film, and yet you're watching it unfold, and it's a marvel. It's called Halloween Night. If you're looking for these, you're going to probably see a couple. There's another Halloween Night that was made by the Asylum, but this one is in 2009. The Polonia brothers made this one. It's very bargain basement. I think they probably shot this 10, 20,000 range. I'd be surprised if it was more than that. Shot on video. It's really not too... I'm trying to think of one part of this where there was skill involved, and I can't.
None. Even the closed captioning was bad.
Oh, did you? Well, I think this is maybe going to explain the film best. There's a way to see just how inept this movie is before it starts. The box art and all of the synopsis for it said that there was a college student who was attacked or upset by some others in the college, and he seeks out a Halloween party to exact his revenge. Except the movie is centered on a 45-year-old janitor.
Yes.
So they couldn't even get the description of their movie correct.
And the poster cover art for the film was better than the movie.
I would dare say the graphics, yeah, that was pretty well done. And I think the graphics might have cost more than the film itself.
I agree with you. I really do agree with you.
So the way this is set up, the hero, quote unquote, of our story is Harold, the 45-year-old janitor, balding with a mullet, who is a seemingly disturbed sort. Most of the kids in the neighborhood, nobody in this cast is under 35 years old, but they're college kids. Harold is a little bit of a disturbed sort, and he goes out in the backyard to create a scarecrow. Does not use a hay bale and fresh hay. He just grabs whatever garbage and dirty mottled straw he finds in the yard. And then he kind of gives up halfway through. The scarecrow looks like garbage. It's not even stuffed all the way. He just kind of stopped. And yet this half-assed built scarecrow is his now best friend. And again, I'm reading into things because this guy that played Harold is not what you would call an actor. He was barely sentient, really.
But somehow he managed to magic a scarecrow to life.
Yeah, this is a guy that seemed challenged by going to the store to buy a sandwich, and yet he was able to not just build a scarecrow, but break into a college, get a heart, conjure up the dark forces, and animate the scarecrow. So he does, I don't know, I guess he might be an occult savant, maybe I could describe it.
Maybe that's the only way, and then don't forget the girls too. They're the two girls, the one that thinks he's just a total creeper. And then the one that's like, oh no, he's perfectly nice. I've talked to him a couple of times. And of course, they're both kind of slutty, of course, because it's a horror movie. Girls are always slutty.
Sure. The one is actually quite bitchy to her best friend, making, it's not just like wisecracks. It's like kind of cutting and severe remarks about her. And Yeah, they both call him Creepy Harold and Weird Harold, but then later on they invite him to the party for whatever reason. But what kicks this all off is Harold makes this scarecrow. He's somehow attached to it. And then a group of 3 thugs come on his property with ski masks and proceed to shred the scarecrow, because that's what roving bands of people do in the Midwest, I suppose, even though this was Pennsylvania. And they tear the scarecrow apart. They punch Harold. They run away laughing. And then they pull off the side of the road to have a conversation, I guess because shooting inside a moving vehicle was beyond the scope of the technical side of the production. So we had to listen to them call themselves the Halloween Gang. And they want to have a party with chicks and booze. And one of them left his wallet behind, which Harold finds. And we discover that these college-age kids, clearly these are friends of the production, because if you saw the driver's license, the main guy was over 50 years old.
They were all so old. There were no way that they were college students, not fresh out of high school college students. No. They could have been adult learners returning for their second or third career. Yeah. It was like, there's no way. The one guy that was the one girl's boyfriend, I was like, why is he still living with his, oh wait, he's still living with his mother. Of course he is, because he's back in college.
Sure he is. Just go with it. We'll just go with it. So Harold gets a hold of this wallet and decides he's going to exact revenge on these guys. So he breaks into the college. He finds a heart in a glass jar, comes back to his house. He does some incantations in the house with a book of the occult. And then he goes out in the yard, places the heart in the destroyed scarecrow, and it just starts animating. Now, also, it seemed to be with the help of lightning. Now, he's doing this ceremony at midnight, and then they cut to the sky to show lightning, and you see blue skies with some clouds. And the lightning is actually coming out of the blue part of the sky, not the clouds themselves, but that's midnight for you. And the scarecrow animates. Now, here's my question for you. He has this lawn decoration that he's deeply affectionate with. And he manages to bring it to life. This thing now it walks around and such. Shouldn't he be happy? Because that's an upgrade from something
being alone.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically professing his friendship with a lawn decoration. Now he's got an anthropomorphic friend. He's got an actual friend. He should be happy. But no, he's mad and he's going to exact revenge.
Yes.
I didn't understand that.
Makes no sense. It made none of the movie made sense. So that it was like, all right, he's going to use the scarecrow to get revenge now against the guys that ripped apart the scarecrow, but he put it back together and animated it. So he should thank them,
that's the logic.
The anger that it took. Yeah.
They ruined my lawn decoration, so now I want a living, breathing scarecrow so we can go get revenge for what they killed that wasn't killed and is actually better today. But they do that. He gets invited to the party. Big mistake. Did you notice, too, though, Harold apparently has this outfit he buys in bulk. He's got a red checkered flannel shirt and dark pants. Scarecrow is the same. Then at the party, there was a third one, a scarecrow hanging from the rafters with a note on it. And then later, this scarecrow is destroyed and burned, and then he has, at the end of the movie, a brand new one. So he must have half a dozen of these red dark pants outfits for himself and his scarecrow.
Amazon.
I guess, yeah. You get a discount if you buy 6 or more, I suppose.
Yeah, apply this coupon because you bought 6.
So we're at the party, and again, they're going to exact revenge on these guys. And of course, they start killing people that had nothing to do with the attack on his house. There's some random guy that shows up we've never met before. He gets killed in the basement. The DJ, who we've never met before, buys it.
Yeah.
It takes about 3/4 of the movie before we actually see the vindictive vengeance wreaked on these people. So, and these killings are not of any magnitude of impressiveness. One of my favorites, though, well, 2 of them. One of the Halloween gang goes out in the yard and says, "Come on, dude, come and get me! I dare you!" And conveniently enough, he was standing by a pile of leaves that the scarecrow had decided to crawl into and hide for no reason. So he got the drop on him. But there's a guy dressed up like the doctor. He goes out in the yard and decapitates the scarecrow.
Yes.
Goes back into the kitchen. And the scarecrow, who already does not have eyes, could easily find his head, reattach it. Now, the guy in the kitchen is decapitated because the scarecrow attaches his head, slowly stands up, turns around, walks very slowly to the stairs and stops, walks up the stairs, stops, opens the door to the house and stops, and walks slowly into the kitchen, and then kills the guy who has refused to move for a good 3 minutes of screen time.
It was so bad.
So that's our tension right there. This guy died because he was too stupid to walk away.
And that was a note that I took about this one is these non-running fools deserve to die because no one was running. No one was trying to escape. It wasn't until 3/4 of the people at the party were dead that everyone was like, oh, we need to try and get out of here. But by then, the scarecrow disables all of the vehicles, which was hilarious, by the way. That was almost like an 80s dress-up montage with the scarecrow like cheerfully ripping wires out of vehicles, which was hilarious.
It was a flash cut to each hood, opened up, arm yanking out, and he had the exact same electrical cable, no matter what make of car it was. He pulled the exact same wire out of them.
And it was like the same spot too, right? It was like the like the front left or something where that's not how this works.
But somehow that managed to keep everybody on site. Yeah, and the final girl too, supposed survivor. Yeah, she too dies because of lack of mobility. She runs to a shed and she gets the door to fall down on the scarecrow and cut him in half. Great.
And then he puts himself back together, which is hilarious.
Yeah, well, and he does it in a very ponderous fashion. He doesn't just pull himself together on the ground and stand up. First, the legs get up on their feet, and then his upper torso crawls over, then crawls up, then lands on top and reattaches and connects himself. All the while, she's still sitting there whimpering. This is a good 90 seconds of screen time, and she's
it was forever
still there. She does get the drop on him, though, with some gas and burns him. Great. End of movie. Nope. Just when you think it's over, the skeleton of the scarecrow that's made out of straw stands up. Now, we saw this thing burn all the way down to the ground, like the clothes are even gone. I'm just going to, granted, the biology of an animated scarecrow is of question to begin with, but we saw a scene where he was decapitated. We just saw a scene where he was vivisected at the waist, and there was no presence of an internal skeletal structure to this thing.
No, and yeah, it was like, where did we saw him put him together.
Yes.
And where did these things come together? And where did these things come from? And then his pumpkin head, where did his pumpkin head come from? Is this magic? Is this additional magic?
Yeah, and then the head itself looked like it was larger than anything we had seen in the walking version of himself, too. So, yeah, loads of confusion with this thing. But in the end, apparently, it's somewhat of a happy ending as far as Harold is concerned, because we're back in his backyard. We have a brand new scarecrow now on a stick, fully embodied and such. And he's telling him, I have to get out of town now. The police are looking for everybody. Hopefully they'll think I'm among the missing. Okay.
Yes.
Clever. Until he says, we're going to plan for next Halloween, and we have a lot of help. And then we flash to each one of the victims that is positioned in his backyard.
Which also makes no sense.
In other words, they're not missing. And in other words, the police are probably going to show up and maybe find them. Just going to throw that out there. So this is the culmination of this ridiculous film. You got to go see this thing because you'll just marvel at the ineptitude. Now, I don't usually like to dump on these films. Now, did you get a feel that this was like a first or second time filmmaker here?
Oh, easily first. Easily first.
Guess what? This is the Polonia brothers 24th title, I believe it was, when this came out. They had done 24 movies at this point.
Have you seen any of the other ones?
No, but I'm going to maybe seek them out because you would think after 24 films, you would learn some basics, composing shots, how to make a scene, how to write a story. Because usually it's one brother. I think it's John would write the script and Andy Poloni would be the director. So, they worked everything in tandem here. Story, composition, editing, any of this stuff going to take after 24 movies? You would think you would have a grasp on some of it. Maybe
find a workshop, something,
Community college might have a script writing course you could take.
Yeah. Or just a writing course, something to develop a plot so that you have, something, a beginning and an end. I mean, there was a lot of mixed up in the middle.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to say this. Yeah, this thing is very tough to watch. I recommend it highly. There is so much entertainment to be had. You'll marvel at this. I promise you. Okay, we are at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to take a quick break here, but stick around. After a couple minutes, we have a lot more in front of us. So hang on. More treats are ahead.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
And welcome back to the second half here of the Disasters in the Making Hollywood Marathon Extravaganza. I've got Kathy Marlowe sitting in with me for this week's episode. Got a couple of quick news hits that I want to touch on. Did you happen to see this story, Kathy? It was in, I think it was Bloody Discussing that came up with it. They think now that they have proven conclusively that the house that they shot the original Halloween in was the same house that they filmed the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, how do you not know that?
Well, it was speculated at times, like exterior and such, but they found a guy that actually went to the Elm Street house when it was on the market about 10 years ago. And I guess he had taken some photos in there and just, kind of toured the place. And then they started to realize there were like little pieces in the house. It was still furnished that were actually in the original Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And it's like there was a wooden horse and people are like, wait a second, there's a scene where she came down the stairs and you can see a horse's head. And they're like, wait, so they're doing some side by sides. And you can actually see in certain scenes on the interior of Halloween matches up. Now it's just
the horror house.
Well, it was, but I guess after it got bought, they kind of gutted it and, revamped it and all that because whoever bought it were not movie fans. But at the time, they thought they shot Halloween. I guess most of the interior was done in another home entirely. And these were like almost second unit scenes, I guess, on the interior during the daytime. Mm-hmm. And they were like, wait a second, look at the molding. That matches. Look at that window setup. That's exactly the same as Elm Street. And that's where they were amazed by it because they knew they had shot within about, I think, 6 blocks of each other.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it turns out that some of the daytime scenes for the original Halloween were actually inside the Elm Street house. Amazingly enough. And like they said, it's like we poured through these films so much and you'd be surprised to come up with new content, new information. But they said this thing like floored people when they found out about it. They were like, yeah, there was some speculation. No, they found out this, it was like 8 years ago, I guess this guy was inside taking pictures. Wow. And it's like, here's the still shot from inside the house. Here's the scene from Halloween from almost the same angle. You're like, wait a second. Holy crap. So you got 2 classic horror movies shot in the same location. Pretty amazing. The other
wild.
thing I've got it on the, I'm going to recommend anybody wants to see this, go to our Twitter account. It's DITM_podcast, Disasters in the Making. I posted it earlier this week. I'll retweet it out again and it's, click on the link and you'll go through it. You'll see all the side-by-side shots. It's pretty amazing to see. Some good movie history they found out.
That's cool.
And there's also some cool movie future. Nick Cage, of course, his career has gone into a tailspin of a spiral the last, 5-7 years or so. He loves putting out these direct-to-video titles now and very infrequently puts out anything of real merit, while at the same time acting completely unhinged at times.
Mm-hmm.
He just signed on for a new film that sounds damn amazing. I cannot wait for it. The current Nick Cage is going to be in a film where he's in an amusement park after hours and the animatronic figures start getting very animated and go on a killing spree.
Oh, that sounds like an episode of this podcast waiting to happen.
I have already marked this on the calendar and there's not even a release date yet. That's how excited for this movie I am.
I might have to actually watch that one because that might be terrible bad, but awesome at the same time. So,
I mean, you come up with something this high concept, great, but you're going to take that batshittery and put Nicolas Cage in it. Holy hell. I'm taking the week off, I think. Wow. Just cannot wait. But, as we try to do here, my producer Lou is always impressed by my professionalism. I'm going to go with the segue here. Speaking of Nick Cage, one of the other movies that were on the list I watched was called Pay the Ghost. Came out about 4 years ago. This was direct-to-video, direct-to-VOD title of his, loses his son during a Halloween festival. And there's all sorts of mysticism and ghosts and talk of crossing to the other side and Celtic mysteries involved in all of this nonsense going on in supposedly New York City, but this was actually shot in Little Toronto, as they like to call it. You know, when they have to sell Toronto as New York City, as they do.
Yeah, they do like to do that.
The one of my favorite scenes in this one, though, I mean, it's not a very good film. It's very heavy-handed and very lukewarm with detail to plot and such. But his wife separates from him. She's upset that he lost their son, yada, yada. But she starts to turn around one night after he has told her about the mysticism and such. She gets up and is convinced after seeing her son's haunted Razor scooter riding through the house. Yeah, that actually that took place. She stops. She sees it, you know, in the back room, slide it out of frame. Then it comes back in frame and goes the other direction. Then it comes and drives up to her and then stops and falls on the floor. It was a haunted Razor scooter. And this is what then convinced her that her husband was actually telling the truth about this. There's also another key scene where he goes to a homeless compound because he was following graffiti throughout town that said "Pay the Ghost," and there's a number of homeless people in this one encampment underground, and he's talking to a blind man who is walking through the chambers with a torch because blind people need to see where they're going, apparently.
Right. Of course.
He's got his walking stick, you know, the red tipped walking stick in one hand and a torch in the other. Okay. And the other, not to ruin the climax of this, but they're on Halloween night, apparently there's a bridge to the other side, and that's where his son will be. And if it's 1 year since his son's disappearance, you can still retrieve him. So he goes to this blind man a second time, and he tells him, "Yes, I'll take your cross, but you need to give me your watch." And he's like, "Why?" He's like, I can't see it. "You can't see it. Why do you need a watch?" He's like, "I just like the way it sounds." And he holds it up to his ear, puts it in his pocket. He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Here's the bridge now. You got until midnight, and you got to hurry back before midnight with your son." Great. Except you just took his watch. So how the hell is he going to know when midnight is? Just, you know, small little tiny plot hole there in the climax of the film that I noted, but I recommend this one too. This is it's Nick Cage. I mean, come on. He plays very downcast in this, though. He's not unhinged in this one. You wish he was. It would have been a much better film, but he does walk around in a very ornate cowboy shirt for a good portion of the movie. So at least there's a little bit of the visual unhinged come through. But speaking of Halloween, we saw Halloween Resurrection.
We did see Halloween Resurrection. I think
of the collection of Halloween titles, it might be my favorite from the the original, and I think the newer one too was pretty good as far as horror goes. This one was not good as far as horror goes, but it was damn funny. Yes. Let me just throw out two words for you that'll probably convince you what a fun time this was. Busta Rhymes was
with his kung fu moves. Don't forget those, because that was a treat.
That was divine. And this was not, say, remember back in the early 2000s where Coolio was just having cameos in a bunch of movies for a while?
Yes.
He was in Batman and Robin for about 2 seconds and such. No, Busta Rhymes has a major role in this film. He's a major player.
And you can see that he's having a good time with this too. Like he's serious about being a part of this movie.
Oh yeah, he was on board. Like, motherfucker, I'm going to do this.
Yes, he was. It was hilarious.
And this one suffers a bit because they really relied a lot on what was contemporary at the time. For one, reality television is very prominent in this one, as is the internet, which you're going to say, well, yeah, okay, internet. We're on the internet right now, as a matter of fact. Sure, but this was back when interactivity and media on the internet was still a novelty. Like you could watch a show on the internet. Really? So what is going on here is they get a bunch of college-age kids, stick them in Michael Myers' home where he grew up to spend the night. Cameras are all throughout this house to capture them in their live feed. And everybody that pays a premium online could watch this in real time on their computer on Halloween night. And Michael Myers shows up and ruins the fun.
Of course he does, because it's Halloween night.
Mm-hmm.
He always goes home on Halloween.
True. Yeah, so the last place you want to be is his home.
Correct.
Of course, there's no way to get out of this home, apparently, once they're inside. All the windows and doors are boarded shut, but they had no contingency plan, like if, I don't know, somebody fell down the staircase or landed on a rusty nail or something. Nope, they have to stay inside. And I thought it funny, too, that everybody was excited to do this because they were going to be famous. And the whole idea was they were going to do things to draw, the audience watching online could pick what camera feed they wanted to watch. So everybody was thinking, I'm going to be more outlandish and they'll watch me, except everybody's mounted camera was on their head giving you a point of view shot. So if one of the girls was doing something, you wouldn't see it. You're seeing what she sees, not her. The camera's not pointed at people. It's pointed away from them. So that was a little bit of a mix-up, I would have to say. But Busta Rhymes, and Tyra Banks is his partner in this.
Yes, and Katie Sackhoff is in this, which was terrible makeup. And then the kid that played, he was a kid in King Arthur's Court, and also the baseball movie where he's the kid that can pitch when he goes to the majors. Yes, that's it. I was really kind of surprised at how many people were in this. I'm like, I know those people. What are they doing in this movie? And even Jamie Lee Curtis is in the beginning of it because Michael kills her, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that whole introductory scene I was questioning because it kind of ruins the canon of the whole series.
Unless she's the resurrection they're talking about.
Well, they never showed it if that's the case.
They never showed a resurrection, really.
No, it's kind of like Haunted Maze. There was no haunting in that one, and there's no resurrection in this one. But yeah, she's in an insane asylum. She's been hoarding her medication, so she's still lucid. Finds a way to break out on the day that Michael's roof. He gets the drop on her and stabs her and drops her, and that's it. I mean, that's the opening scene, 5 minutes, and Jamie Lee Curtis is gone. I had a hard time following that. Like, what? Huh?
Yeah, that was strange.
Kind of screwed things up for the rest of the series, especially last year's version. But maybe they explained it in part 9. I may have missed that part, but yeah, this is not so good. And at one point, Busta Rhymes is wearing the Michael Myers mask to terrorize the people that are on screen. And then Michael Myers himself shows up and squares off. And he and Busta Rhymes, well, I can't say an argument because Michael doesn't talk, but Busta gives him the business verbally and he walks away. Later, they have a confrontation where he does his kung fu. And at one point, he actually kicks Michael Myers out of a window. I was kind of impressed.
That was awesome.
But it also kind of undermines that whole Michael Myers invincibility thing, too. And it's like, for 7 movies, nothing can stop this guy but a rap star can with his kung fu grip.
But now they can get out of the house because he has kicked him out of a window. But they don't.
Yeah, and of course, nobody can go that extra mile and actually kill him. But he's being suspended by electrical wires that were from the television production and hanging. And I guess, well, okay, but it's a rather silly enterprise, but it's a fun one at the same time. So go and watch this one, not expecting to be scared, but expecting to laugh. Definitely. I think I had a good time with that one. One I didn't really have a good time with was Pumpkin Carver, spelled with a K.
Oh, that was so bad.
I'll say this. It was helped along in that I watched that after I watched Halloween Night. So by comparison, yeah, it definitely looked good. At least these guys knew how to operate a camera.
There is that. There were a couple of good special effects in that one. My favorite part of all of these movies were the two trick-or-treaters in this one. They were excellent. Yeah,
there were, it was early in the movie when we were establishing this. The main plot of this one is there's a brother and sister, no parents. She's probably in her 20s. He might be close. Very attractive girl with a very douchey boyfriend.
Of course.
At one point during Halloween night, the boyfriend comes in with a pumpkin mask to terrorize her to the point that she thinks she's going to die. And the brother comes in and saves her life by stabbing him. Then they find out it's actually the boyfriend. Oops, but too late. He's dead. So he's going through existential crisis. They have to move, and they go to the town of Carver in the middle of somewhere, farmland.
Yes.
I don't really know why they went there.
I think their parents are there. They said something about mom and dad being there, but you're right. In the beginning, it's like mom and dad are not present at all in the movie. But because of what has happened, they move away. And she's in college, and I have no idea where the kid has been. I'm still struggling to figure out what happened there.
Yeah, the narrative was wanting, let's say.
Yes.
And one of the people that the brother befriends is about an 80-year-old farm guy who declares that his entire life is carving.
Old Man Withers.
Yeah. And he says the only time of year he's even appreciated is Halloween. Does this mean he carves on his own for the other 12 months of the year?
I think that's what it was. Like, he was like back in the day when carving was everything. It was like carving was a profession.
Was there really a time when that was the case? I
mean, is there really a call for? I mean, pumpkins only happen once a year.
Yeah, it's an annual crop. It's not like you know, April. You can go out to the patch and pick up a 20-pound gourd and go to town on it.
Yeah, it's a little. It was like, what do you mean? Were you practicing on zucchini in the off season? What's going on?
Yeah. Watermelon harvest is in. Time for some new faces, I guess. I don't know. But as is the case in all these films, we are surrounded by a bunch of asshole college co-eds. But yeah, basically by the time we get through the cast, you're sick and tired of everybody. And that opening scene at the house during Halloween, there is that pair of 10-year-old boys. One's white, one's black. And I only say that because they're doing Men in Black. Mm-hmm. And these two kids nailed it. I mean,
they were perfect.
You know, she even said, wow, who are you two supposed to be? And they're like, ma'am, can you make with the confectionery products? Because we have to go out and save the universe from the incursion of alien force. I mean, they delivered lines. They were in character. She was befuddled. Who are you? I'm Agent B1. I'm Agent B2. And they even had very large plastic guns, and they wrapped them up in tinfoil to look like Men in Black weapons. So I mean, love these.
That was the best part of the whole movie. Yeah, they were the best part of all of the movies because they were so on and so perfect, and everything else was not.
Yeah, I mean these two kids were just natural. They were like, boom, gonna do it. Okay, we're Men in Black for Halloween. I know what I'm gonna do.
You got this. Yep.
I mean, it's like the rest of the cast could take cues from these two and refuse to. How about that? So yeah, this. The only thing I could really figure out about this one is the kid that accidentally killed the boyfriend was going through mental breakdown because he kept seeing him, and killings were taking place, but not him. And at times he would see the old boyfriend, but then it would become somebody else. And then the very last scene, he became the boyfriend, but himself. Yes. It's like, wait.
They did have a conversation where they talk and the boyfriend tells him he made a deal with the devil. So he was coming back to, I guess, exact revenge, even though he didn't exact revenge on the person that sent him to hell in the first place. I mean,
that's the whole thing is they're telling us their motivation is vengeance while they kill a bunch of strangers.
Yes.
So, I mean, like all the victims are the kids and the girls from this town that had nothing to do with the prior killing. So, yeah, I guess unfocused vengeance was kind of a theme in these films. But, yeah, this one, too, is not very good, but worth watching just to watch that ineptitude.
And this is another one where the cover art has nothing to do with the movie either.
Yeah,
and is better than the movie, except for the kids. Well,
I got to tell you, I kind of like the mask in it. It was like a variation on a pumpkin, but it wasn't exactly a pumpkin. You know, it looked more kind of a horrific looking mask, but they did the furrows at the top of it, so it had a pumpkin resemblance to it. So that kind of was it. But yeah, it had nothing to do with the cover art. The poster of the movie did not resemble this mask in the least.
I was, because the cover makes it look like he's really a clown, like a haunted sort of clown, and I didn't understand what that had to do with pumpkin carving. And then you see him with that sort of you know how they take and carve apples and then they dry them for like the little old people faces. That's kind of what that pumpkin looked like, a dried, wrinkled, shriveled up pumpkin for a mask, which you're right, that was pretty good too. But there was no anything in that movie. There's no tension.
No, not too much. And it's this is one that you would put on while you're doing something else, you know, housework or laundry or something like that, and it's still on. And you could just, you know, watch the ineptitude and enjoy it. There was one other, we're kind of running short on time, but one other I saw was called The Legend of Halloween Jack. And this was a British production. I only note it because most of the time it plays out like a British police drama. You know, it's decently shot, but it's, you know, competent acting and everybody interacts fairly well with each other. And then randomly, this entity will show up with a burlap sack and red eyes and a mouth gouged into it while it exacts its vengeance. This was, again, somebody who made some killings. They got let off on a police technicality. Some of the locals went vigilante on them. And this is what I find striking, and maybe this is the trend of movies. They had them tied up, and I think it was 4 different guys that were family members of the victims took turns shooting them. And you see the CGI blood, you know, bursting out of the body, supposedly. I guess CGI now is cheaper than squibs.
Squibs are the little packs of blood.
Yeah, those are the blood packs they put on a performer, and then, you know, they blow up. But those are usually just, you know, put them on, ignite it, boom. But the thing is, probably absorbed about 8 shots, and you see the computer blood. Afterwards, they show them slumping down. No holes at all in the clothes, no blood to be seen. So it's like, okay, I see that, but you still have to have some physical blood to represent the blood you showed me on camera, but they didn't. Right. Kind of a theme throughout this movie, too. One guy was killed when they were at a Halloween party. Another theme. A wooden chair is kicked over. He picks up the guy and drops him on one of the legs, and that stabs through him. That was one of the killings. A couple of the other killings were not shown. That's always good in a horror movie, you know.
Yeah, I'm not getting my money's worth of blood and gore if you do it off camera.
Like one guy's like, "Come on, come and get me." Knocks him down. He falls out of frame, and then we see the psycho killer, I guess, jump on him with a foot or something. He does some movements, and that's it. But you don't see anything transpire. And and apparently he's able to come back to life every Halloween and exact vengeance. But there you go. But that's some of the offerings. You can find almost any and all of these on Amazon Prime, maybe a couple other streaming services. Go ahead and plug them in tonight. Kathy, thanks a ton for coming on tonight. Had an absolute blast.
Me too. This was great.
Sorry to subject you to these titles. I know you're aversion to horror and clowns in general, and yet you still managed to come on. So I applaud you.
Well, it's really because they weren't scary.
This is true.
If they had been scary, I might would have said, hey, can we just do one? I'm a little frightened, but they weren't scary at all.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. I had a blast. So stick around, folks. Coming up next, Jeff is going to have a new episode of In the Crease where he is going to be doing Halloween ghost stories. And then later tonight on Juxtaposition, Ordy and Rick are going to go through some historical aspects of Halloween, and they have a long episode. I think they're going to be doing the Halloween stories, monsters, a whole variety of things on Juxtaposition. So stick around. Come back in a couple weeks for a new episode of Disasters in the Making. Next Thursday, I'll be back with Ordy. We're going to have the culture shift. So we look forward to you then, folks. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.